drifting along in the fog, quiet, all quiet, only doing about 6 or 7 knots, going across Blue Hill Bay. We heard a big horn, a horn that sounded like it was a big vessel. I had a suspicion that it might be the ferry boat to Swan's Island from Bass Harbor. We're headed for Bass Harbor Bar. Wind to the southern booms out. This great big vessel, the Adventure, 230 ton, a lot of inertia there, and 6,000 square feet of sail. We had 45 people in my charge, of course. This vessel was built for the big water, big wide water of the North Atlantic. She takes half a mile to turn. We heard that horn again, boo, but we got lower, closer and closer. Of course, we were all attentive by this time, wondering what this was, what this was. So we were drifting along, and I'm looking up at the sky, looking at the horizon, trying to see what this was that was approaching us. And I saw a cloud. I saw this white thing, long white, funny-looking cloud. But it looked like overfalls of water, but way up high, way above the horizon. Of course, there wasn't any horizon. It was just sort of the bay melded into the fog, and there was no definition there. I looked at my mate. I said, "What the heck do you make of that cloud up there?" He didn't understand it either. After a while, we saw a form taking shape below that cloud, and it was the hull of a vessel. And it was the Swan's Island ferry boat, and it came more distinctly, and you could see the cars on deck, upside down. And further down, here was the pilot house of the vessel. The whole image was upside down. The whole image, the fog had somehow or other taken the reflection of that water and turned it a phenomena. That's all it was, just a phenomena, a fog phenomena. Fog plays tricks on you. Now, I'm talking about the old days. I'm talking about the 1960s and 70s here. We didn't have any GPS. We didn't have any radar. We didn't have any of that fancy stuff. Now it's duck soup. All you have to do is look at the screen on the thing in front of you, and it tells you what's there, tells you where you are, tells you within inches of where the ledges are, and so on and so forth. Duck soup, nothing to it. In those days, we had to rely on our own senses. Back in the 19th century, it wasn't really a sin to lose a vessel because there were so many vicissitudes that happened to a sailing vessel. Of course, when you're a sea captain, everybody asks you to tell about the worst experience you ever had, near-death experiences of terror and horror. If you could have a shipwreck every week, well, you'd never want for the sake of passengers. They love a shipwreck every time. But with 40 years of voyaging, I've seen some pretty wild times. I could tell you about the New Providence Channel when we were being chased around by 7 water spouts full of energy. We didn't want to get anywhere near them. We were bouncing off one, bouncing off another, trying to avoid them. I could tell you about our knockdown out in the middle of the Gulf Stream in the dead of night. My God, we were struck by lightning. The whole vessel was electrified. And then say no mo's fire on the top of the mainmast. Well, we got a blast of air that lay the vessel down, sails almost in the water. And when the vessel recovered and she came back up again, the cockpit was self-bailing cockpit was full of water. And when all the water drained out of there was a fish that big in the darn cockpit. Unbelievable. Lots of experiences like that, but they're all in my book. You have to get a copy of my book. My 2 boys furling the topsail off of Boston there one time. The breeze came up so hard on the Adventure, and we were punching that topsail in, trying to stow it, because there was too much air for it. I looked over and the lanyards are coming apart because some fool had put the lanyards on there and didn't tie a proper Matthew Walker knot. It's all in my book. You got to go to that source and get it. I don't have time for that, but one of the scariest things that I've ever had was in the fog. Back in those days when you only had your own senses, you were sailing by the seat of your pants. We were coming through Port Clyde, coming to the eastern. We came around Mosquito Island and we were headed for Muscle Ridge Channel. And of course there's a bell off of Mosquito Island. Well, there was a great big bell, and of course it was dinging there, and we passed the bell. The visibility was poor. You could tell it was kind of coming fog, but it wasn't too serious yet. And we could hear the horn on Whitehead. Whitehead Light is a big horn on Whitehead Light, right at the entrance to the Muscle Ridge Channel. Guide you right up in that channel. So we weren't very worried about it. We figured our time, we figured our destination, and what time it would take us to get there. And sure enough, we were drifting along, passengers all kibitzing on deck and so on. We got halfway there, another half hour to go, and I didn't hear that horn. I doubled the watch on the bow because the fog was getting thicker. I said, keep your eye out, keep your ear out, let me know about that horn. They went up forward, and there was no horn. Do you hear the horn? No, no horn. No horn. What happened to that horn? I need that horn. That horn is going to get us into the Muscle Ridge Channel. It wasn't blowing. Why wasn't it blowing? Did they shut it off? No, they wouldn't have shut it off. Well, did it fail? Something happened. We didn't hear that horn. We continued on, running out our time. By the time, geez, my time was running out. I couldn't continue. I had to do something. I had to take some drastic action here, or we're going to be ashore. On one side, this gravel beach, the lower end of Spruce Head there, it's barren, just gravel beach with great big boulders on it, no place at all. Perfect place to drown passengers. On this side was the yellow ledges, angry yellow ledges ready to grab any keel that went by. Oh my God, I gotta get that horn. It didn't blow. So I spun the wheel around. I had to leave. I couldn't stay. I had to turn around and go back. Spun that wheel around, adrenaline running by this time now. When she got brought off the wind there, wind coming over the quarter, and the bow watch shouts out, breakers ahead, Captain. Oh my God, breakers ahead. And stood on the spoke of that wheel trying to get her to turn that much sharper. She took a half a mile to turn around. She was built for the great big waters of the North Atlantic. She wasn't built to go spinning around these little bays and sounds in the coast of Maine. Anyway, the wind came over the broad beam of her now. The sails felt that. The vessel leapt ahead, doing 7, 8 knot now. And all of a sudden, we entered into this corridor of clear weather. Corridor, not very wide. You could see the wall of fog on the other side of it. I looked down, and there was White Headlight right there. And just about that time, boom, that horn came out. That horn practically knocked us off the deck. 150 feet further, and we were back in the same fog bank again. No horn, but I had snapped a bearing on that lighthouse as soon as I saw it on my compass, so I knew where it was, and we were all right. We rounded up, turned around, ran back up into that corridor. By the time we got to the lighthouse, the weather was all clear and beautiful up through the Muscle Ridge Channel, just as gorgeous as it could be. Now, figure it. I don't know how you figure it. I remember we were crossing Penobscot Bay one time, and we were going from Muscle Ridge Channel down to Vinyl Haven. Foggy day. Spring tides, great big tides running, lots of current in the bay. Lots of current going up. To the north, it was a flood tide, right in the middle of the flood. So I allowed 1.5 points in my destination, my ETA, my course down there to avoid any problems of the ledges down off the bottom of Vinyl Haven. We went out into the bay, and there were all about buoys land to the north, the current running like the devil to the north. We get out the middle of the bay, and right there was a rift, a line of froth right up the bay, north to south. What is this? There's no ledges out here. It's all open country out here. What is it? We went through that froth to the other side, and the current was running the other way. Current was running to the southern. It was running to the north on one side of the bay and to the south on the other side of the bay. Now, how do you figure your ETA on that one? Blew my computation, my course all to pieces. The fog will play tricks on you. And it was the bane of my existence back in those days. It blocks out all senses, visual, audio, and olfactory. It lays a blanket over the earth and the islands. It eradicates all sensible senses, and it'll play tricks on you. A phenomenon. Well, I don't believe much in spirits. I don't believe much in ghosts. Probably you don't either. But I want to tell you a little story. Jeff Thomas was the skipper of the Adventure when she was built. In 1926 it was built, and he died on deck in 1934. He died of exhaustion, knocking the ice off the vessel in the dead of winter out on the Grand Banks, the middle of the North Atlantic. Well, his spirit I believe was still on the adventure. Now, I don't believe in ghosts and all that stuff. Neither do you. Nobody believes in ghosts. But let me tell you some of the odd things that happened. We'd always go ashore for lobster bake. Every week we'd go ashore for lobster bake, shut down the vessel, take everybody off. And I would always be the last to leave. And I'd always go through the vessel, make sure the fire's out down in the galley, make sure that there's nothing out of place in the vessel. Go out through the main cabin there. Always arrange the rocking chair. We had a rocking chair in front of the fireplace in the main cabin there. Always make sure that the rocking chair was in front of the fireplace. I would do it because almost invariably, well, 50% of the time when we would come back from that lobster bake, I'd come aboard the vessel and that rocking chair would be somewhere else. I'd be the first one back on board, and that rocking chair would be over on the other side of the room, or one time I found it tipped over on its side or pulled back away from the fireplace. Couldn't figure it out. Almost half the time when we came back, that rocking chair had been moved. I don't know by whom. Dougie Butler was my mate. We used to wash down at night. I'd put salt water on the decks at night, keep them tight, you know. They would go in the seams and keep the seams all swollen up for us. He would be the last one up. He didn't believe in spirits either, but he grabbed that bucket one night, foggy night. All you could see up there was the oil lamp, the anchor lamp hanging in the rigging, and everything was dripping wet with fog. And he was washing the decks down, and he felt this spirit behind him. He felt this presence behind him. Somebody following him down the deck. My God, he grabbed that bucket, he threw the water everywhere he could, fast as he could, till get down below, just as quick as he could. He told me about it the next day, his hair standing up on end and so on. Well, it was old Jeff. Now, I don't believe in spirits, but I'll tell you, one time we were going for a lobster bake. We were going over to between Calderwood and Bradbury Island, over near North Haven Thoroughfare. We picked up our lobsters in Stonington. It's a beautiful anchorage up in there. It's a nice sou'wester. We went and fetched across the Idaho Bay, and we were headed to that little entry. And what you do is you slide up behind it and get to the Narrows. You shoot up through the Narrows. The Adventure, with her 230 tons, she would shoot quite far. And we shot up through the other sails, all flutter, you know. We got into the anchorage. I told him he'd drop the anchor, and he let go of the cat. She went down the chain, roared out through the hawse, and we were anchored for the night. Yeah, it was great. We went ashore, beautiful lobster bake. Came back to the vessel. Sure enough, the rocking chair was moved. I don't remember exactly what that particular time it was moved, but it was moved. And I went to bed looking for a great snore after our music session in the main cabin and so on. I heard 6 bells on the ship's clock. I frequently wake up during the night. 6 bells, 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I felt a pinch on my shoulder. Oh my God, who's up? Who's pinching my shoulder? Not my crew. They wouldn't call me that way. I jumped out of the bunk. I ran over to the companion, stuck my head out, looked around. The southwest wind was blowing, not very strongly, maybe 12, 15 knots, and it seemed like a pretty quiet night, but it just didn't feel right to me. So I could still feel this pinch on my shoulder. I went up on deck and I looked over the stern, and by God, there were the ledges within spitting distance of the stern. Our anchor had dragged that beautiful night. That didn't seem right. I called my crew out immediately, jumped down in the all boat, started it up, got it ready to get underway. I climbed back aboard. By that time, my mate was out. I said, take her around to the bow. We'll drop a line to you. We got a line overboard and pulled the schooner ahead, set the big anchor, the 1,500-pounder. When we got up to the anchorage area again, we knew we weren't going to move then. So sure enough, the next morning after we hove up, everything quieted down that night. We hove up in the morning, and when we hove our anchor out of the water, the stock was missing. She had dropped in a rift in the ledge. It had sheared it right off. No stock. No wonder the old anchor wasn't holding, for crying out loud. No way could it do it without a stock. I don't believe in spooks. I don't believe in ghosts. But I can still feel that pinch on my shoulder. Now, is Jeff Thomas aboard that vessel? Is he looking out for the goodness of that ship? I don't know, but there's something strange going on there. Thank you.